Welcome back to the webcast All Sports One Web. Today I am joined with Jacob as we go through the great instant classic of a game that was at Stamford Bridge on Sunday, Manchester City versus Chelsea. We're going to go through that entire game piece by piece, give you our thoughts, break it down a little bit, and then tell you where we think both teams are headed as we are at the 30-ish% mark of the season so far in the Premier League. We got international break this week and next week, so we will resume Premier League action right after Thanksgiving next week. But Jacob, how was that game for you? Just quick, is it an instant classic? Is it one of the best
Yeah,
you've seen in the Premier League?
it was an awesome game. I said after that Chelsea Tottenham game that I was happy to be a neutral, and in this one, while I was watching, I was begging to be a neutral the whole time. I'm very jealous for every neutral that tuned in for that. Probably best game of the Premier League season this year. To be honest, losing 3 leads, going up 3 goals, going up a goal 3 separate times as a City fan, and then losing the lead was pretty tough to watch. It was frustrating at times, but it was a great game, and I was happy to watch it.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's start off there. Let's go through the whole game as it unfolded. If you didn't get to watch it, don't worry, we're going to go through all of it here. And so, game kicks off there at Stamford Bridge, the late kickoff on Sunday Eastern Time, under the lights in West London. A good kind of fast-paced start from Chelsea in those first couple of minutes. Good pressing, definitely had a good kind of plan in place, which I was really excited to see from Pochettino. I think sometimes, especially with that fluid kind of midfield three and that more fluid attack that Chelsea have been going with, it sometimes lacks a little bit of that pressing structure where you hope everybody can move together. But at the beginning of the game, I thought Chelsea started off really strong those first couple of minutes, and then City kind of ease their way and do as City do to kind of gain some control there, maybe after the 10 to 15 minute mark. But let's just say after those first 15 minutes, did you feel like it was kind of even, or did you feel like
For
City was
sure.
gaining control there?
Yeah, I think it was back and forth. City throughout the game, kept trying to just make it a City match where we control the ball and you don't touch the ball, and we do what we want with it. And Chelsea just overloaded the midfield. Rodri just was at times just overwhelmed by the Chelsea press and just the overloading the midfield. And City never really, for a long period of time, were in their groove. Maybe you can say towards the end of the game, but yeah, in the beginning, it started off fast paced, like you said, but there wasn't really. Both teams were kind of just feeling each other out. Kind of, there wasn't many shots on target until a little bit after that quarter game mark. But yeah, it was close throughout. I wouldn't say any team had a more than like a 10-minute spell where you would say they were clearly better.
Yeah, a lot of ebbs and flows for me. I think like it was just Chelsea trying to implement the way that they wanted to play, chaotic, fast-paced transition, and City trying to be City and hold the ball and kind of possess and get control and dictate the possession on their terms. Both teams entered the game as the top two in terms of overall possession, 63, I think, percent for City and just around 61.5 to 62% per game for Chelsea. Very surprising for a team that has only one win at Stamford Bridge all season so far going into this game. And I think everything changed at this moment here, which is about the 25th minute mark. A lot of back and forth on this one. And this is the penalty for Manchester City, where you had, in my opinion, you had a foul on Erling Haaland a little bit earlier in this. You had tugging between Cucurella. Cucurella puts his hand on Haaland's shoulder, grabs a little bit of jersey as they are standing there. Haaland reciprocates by holding here on Cucurella. Haaland goes to move forward and pulls Cucurella a little bit. Cucurella then keeps with him, but is behind a step. And when you're behind a step as a forward is cutting across you atop the 6, like in this photo here, and the ball is coming in, he holds them and it's a penalty. If you are not going to call the first foul and you think that it's not a foul, Cucurella, after watching it back, I have to say, I mean, I got to lean. I don't like the call, but I have to lean penalty. The only issue that I have with this being a penalty after watching it through is either one, I would have liked to see the foul called earlier. And two is the fact that the PGMOL decided to give this game to Anthony Taylor after demoting him to the championship for poor refereeing and then giving him VAR duties with his championship game. His first game back, he's given this game at Stamford Bridge. When this time last year, we had a no-call pull on Cucurella in the box that resulted in, guess what? A goal for Tottenham. Obviously, not the best marking there at the end of the game. Harry Kane thought it was the game winner when it was the game tying goal. That's how excited he was about it. But this is a foul, okay? And before this, which is a foul, there was a foul on Cucurella again. He just doesn't like calling fouls on Cucurella. I don't know why he was given this game to begin with. You got demoted, and you get, as soon as you're reinstated, you get the highest profile game. I don't know if that speaks ill on PGMOL or the fact that they just don't believe in any of their other referees because they're all just that terrible. I really don't know. Howard Webb needs to get it figured out because Chelsea fans want Anthony Taylor to have nothing to do with refereeing in the Premier League, and I don't necessarily blame him with the history there. But what were your thoughts on the penalty overall?
Yeah, so I mean, this is a tough one. Like you said, there was some initial contact by Cucurella. He definitely instigates the whole situation by putting his arm on Haaland. You can't really blame him, though. Haaland's a beast. Haaland does the same thing back to Cucurella, and they might even pull at the same capacity, if that makes sense. But Haaland is just twice as big, so Cucurella goes flying. I don't think you can say, oh, well, Haaland's just stronger. It's not his fault. Cucurella went flying. That's a foul. Shouldn't have been a penalty. Probably shouldn't have been a penalty. But once they call the foul, it's not like a clear and obvious error that Cucurella didn't foul Haaland, because he clearly did once Haaland was by him. But yeah, you don't really like that. But for the game, again, bringing the neutrals back in the conversation, it definitely just lit a fire, and the game just could not stop producing goals after this moment.
Yeah, so that happens in the 25th minute, and so obviously Chelsea fans are very irate about it. And I was wondering, usually in these moments, especially at home for Chelsea, we fold like a house of cards. We haven't shown that character, that push to fight back in games. And in 4 minutes, not only do we have a couple chances, Reece James with a great free kick outside the box, a good save by Ederson to push it with that opposite hand. You love to see it. Goalkeepers moving to the left, hit it with the right. Love to see it. I got the logo up there in the top right of Yashin. You know, he should be using opposite hand there, but he's not. It's okay. And pushes it over the bar, and we get a corner kick, and Thiago Silva, with some poor marking, in my opinion, you can't allow it to happen, gets near post, heads it back post, and we're tied 1-1. What were your thoughts when that?
Okay, I am going to go conspiratorial Manchester City hat right now. And since we were just talking about just the man of the first half, Cucurella, he 100% is holding Ruben Diaz or Rodri, I can't remember exactly which one it was, to prevent him.
They look the same.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly who it was, but he's going to try to track Thiago Silva. I don't know if he gets there in time anyway. Cucurella definitely prevents any chance of that by holding him. He's just a master of the dark arts, I guess. That's why he's always in these little conversations. Again, you can't really blame him. He's much smaller dude than these giants he's having to guard as a left back. That all being said, what is Ederson doing? Like, he's just thinking. I mean, he didn't really have Thiago Silva, brilliant header. He doesn't really have an angle to go far post there. I don't know how. I don't know just physically how that even came off his head with that much speed, especially. But Ederson, you can't cheat leaning near post that much. I can't believe he beats him Very poor by Ederson. Thiago Silva looked like the most surprised person in the stadium that it actually went in. It was a cool moment. I'm not going to take anything away from the goal. A brilliant header. Thiago Silva is the oldest person to score in the Premier League in a long time with that goal.
Yeah, 39 years of old. Getting on the score sheet was absolutely fantastic. I mean, just when you thought going into this game, obviously the controversial penalty, City go up, you wonder whether or not Chelsea's going to be able to battle back. 4 minutes later, back level, you could feel the energy in the stadium and the belief that the players are starting to show some character. They know what they're doing. They're believing what they're doing, and they can fight back. But 4 minutes after that mark, we have the Phil Foden chance. And it just as you could feel all of the energy in the stadium, the ball drops kind of to Phil Foden. He puts it on his left foot. He's going to curl that back post. You could feel an entire gasp collectively from the whole stadium as that was arrowing towards that back post.
Hear it, I think.
Tuck side netting there. It goes just wide. But a great response there back from City, and I think that's really when the game we kind of
go really back and forth at this time.
It kind of that basketball matchup of transition where Chelsea definitely wanted the game to go, and you fast forward 4 minutes on from that Phil Foden chance, and you have Raheem Sterling getting on the score sheet, and so. An absolutely great turnaround there in 8 minutes for Chelsea. You feel like the momentum is definitely going in their way. How were you feeling when Sterling, of all people, got on the score sheet there in the 37th minute?
I don't even know what's going through my head at this moment. A good team goal by Chelsea.
Gardival having an issue there with the back
doesn't do very good there. He shouldn't turn your back on the ball like that. Reece James just gets by him easily after he does that and finds a good assist to Sterling back post. Ruben Diaz steps up earlier in the play to try to put some pressure in the midfield, and then just springs the Chelsea attack after that because there's just not enough people back. Diaz, not his best game in a City shirt by any stretch of the imagination. Good team goal, though, by Chelsea. Sterling was trying his best not to celebrate. I respect for that. I'm sure that was an awesome moment for him. He obviously wanted that goal. It was 2-1. That was Chelsea's only lead of the game. That was just contributed to this crazy game. Just the teams could not stop scoring.
Yeah, and you talk about it. It just seems like it's been every 4 minutes since that penalty. Something crazy happened. 4 minutes after that Raheem Sterling goal, we have that ball slid through with a great movement run from Erling Haaland to cut across, split the defenders, pick up the ball, top of the 18, trying to go with his left foot across Robert Sanchez, who, in my opinion, having him for the first couple this first half or first third of the season, my biggest criticism of Robert Sanchez is I think he's too safe. He's too comfortable. He's very timid in trying to come out and kind of command his area. Obviously, you got Erling Haaland running onto that. He stays a little bit more closer to the goal line than I would have liked. Haaland does not connect fully with it to put it towards that corner. He gives it a couple feet more to the left-hand side, not getting that right-hand post. And Sanchez actually comes up with a decent save from his positioning and be able to get it. But when that ball went through, were you like me thinking, oh, this is for sure 2-2?
I was hopeful, of course. And you just never felt comfortable in the game either direction. Like there just seemed to be anytime there's an opportunity, you're like, oh, there's going to be another goal. And I thought we were going to tie it there. But there were so many opportunities. There's almost 20 shots on target from both teams in this game. It's absolutely crazy. There's 32 shots overall. It's just absolutely crazy game.
Yeah, super back and forth. We fast forward now another 4 or 5 minutes after that Haaland chance. Corner kick for Manchester City. A close ball played there down the line where Bernardo Silva is kind of waiting at the top of the 18. plays a nice, great ball to the top of the 6 where Akanji is there, the header at home, 2-2, right on the stroke of halftime.
Just
changed
like
the whole momentum for me.
Chelsea header, not very good marking.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I have an issue with Enzo marking him to begin with, but then when you go ahead and you play the ball short, if half the team is going to press up to kind of put the players offsides, then you need Thiago Silva and Desailly to push up as well. They are Reece James and Thiago Silva. Sorry. They both were just waiting there. They didn't push up with Enzo. Enzo left his marking to force Akanji to either come back onsides or be offsides as soon as Bernardo Silva touched that ball at the plate, that whipped that in. And there needs to just be better communication. It's been an issue with Chelsea all season. We've seen many goals back post, actually, off crosses, just purely by poor marking and bad communication. This one was another example of that, just more centrally and not like a good structure in terms of team movement to kind of force everybody up in the box. And I just, that was a very deflating moment to give a goal up in that fashion on the stroke of halftime. You could see how angry Pochettino was as well. Absolutely terrible. But 2-2 at halftime. I didn't know where it was going to go. It was that back and forth so much. And then we enter into the second half. And before you could even sit down, you got the Phil Foden ball across the top of the 6, tapped home by Haaland. And did you think, okay, this is it? We're back to City taking control of this and being over?
Yeah, I kept wanting to be comfortable and honestly, I fell into that trap 3 separate times. Every time anytime City has the lead as a City fan the past few years, you're like, okay, that was a good game. Nice try, Chelsea. But then they obviously come back. I thought it was definitely over at this point. Like, okay, like 2-2 going into the half. Obviously, just to add to that, like that was massive. Like getting that, going, being up in the at halftime in the dressing room is a lot different than, okay, 2-2. We just played a great half against City. And I'm sure that was demoralizing for Chelsea. And they kind of showed that at the start of the second half. Haaland gets that very awkward little sliding goal where it kind of touches his elbow.
VAR just took way too long for that. That for me was such an issue. I don't understand. I would have been actually pissed if they would have called that goal back.
Use some common sense. Like,
well, not just that, but like
he's in the goal.
He's in the goal.
His whole body was in the goal. If it nicks his elbow at that moment, if it's so obvious that it doesn't give him any kind of advantage at all, why would you ever review that? Like, the handball rule is in place because offensive players can use it to gain an advantage. If you're in the net and the ball is going in the goal otherwise than it touching your arm, you don't need to review that. Don't waste your time. Don't waste everyone else's time. You're just stopping this free-flowing game. We'll
have to revisit the handball thing a little bit later in this game because it will come up here shortly. Don't you worry. But I agree. 3-2 should have been called there. Interesting next 20 minutes after that. Little battle back and forth. We have a couple substitutions as well around the 60-minute mark. Doku comes off. Jack Grealish comes on. We're going to get to kind of our player thoughts here after we recap the whole game. But what were you happy with that move from Pep there off of the bat after just 60 minutes, Doku coming off, him being one of the most informed players coming into the game to begin with?
Yeah, so hindsight's 2020, and I'm not going to criticize Pep too much for not making the decision sooner. But yeah, Doku wasn't the kind of player we needed in this game. He wasn't going to beat Reece James for pace. I mean, maybe he's probably quicker than Reece James. But Reece James handled him really well. He's a very seasoned veteran defender. He knew to give him a step or two if it looked like Doku was going to get on his horse and try to run by him, and he did really well. He was basically in his pocket all game. He got by him a couple times. Doku had that one really good chance, to be fair, where he cuts back and just sends it on the ground straight to Sanchez. I don't think Doku necessarily had a bad game at all.
If you go 5 seconds earlier, though, it's because Reece James was caught up the field. It wasn't
right. Exactly. So, not the player we needed to go against Reece James. again, hindsight's 2020. Pep didn't know Pochettino, couldn't read Pochettino's mind. He didn't know that he was going to overload the center mids and force it out wide. And then Doku gets the ball and he's just enticed by that transitional play because that's the kind of player he is. And he makes it more of a back and forth game than it needed to be. Grealish is good at attacking defenders too, don't get me wrong, but he's also very good at holding the ball. That's why Pep loves him so much, despite his, people will say, lack of goals and assists since his huge signing from Aston Villa, obviously. But yeah, I wish it could have came sooner. We really needed a Grealish type player to just, and he knows how to do that with Chelsea. He did that with City, excuse me. He did that all last year in our treble year. Yeah, very happy with the substitution. I think Grealish did that, but it was too little too late, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, you think, he comes on to kind of bring that possession, like you said, settle it down, up 3-2. They're at the 60-minute mark. Can he see it out? Can City see it out? But Chelsea have to make a couple of substitutions. Reece James on a minute constriction was kind of sad, but you had to do it. So Pochettino takes him off, puts on Gusto there, and then takes off Enzo Fernandez, who the last couple of games has kind of been taken off early, whether it's an injury related thing from a knock from the previous game against Tottenham, I don't know, but gets taken off 60 minutes for Mudryk, who comes in and gets down that left-hand side and makes an immediate impact that is not talked about enough. Okay, we go back to the beginning of the season when Raheem Sterling scores twice against Luton Town or whatever it was, or Burnley, whoever it was. And he's like, I want to get back to the old Raheem Sterling where I get on the ball and I take people on one-on-one.
Luton Town, yeah.
It was Luton Town. And get on my horse, basically, and go and drive at people. And it was great sentiment. And yes, obviously, that's what you want your wingers to do, like Doku, like you mentioned. You want him to get the ball in those advanced areas and take people on one-on-one and beat them and get a ball across the top of the six, make something happen, draw in players. And that's exactly what Mudryk does as soon as he touches the ball. And no one is giving him enough credit for this, in my opinion. Gets on that left-hand side, sucks three players, Kyle Walker, Rodri, and I forget, maybe Phil Foden or someone like that, or maybe it was Diaz. Anyway, sucks three players in and plays a nice ball across the top for who else but Conor Gallagher to get some space and hit it from deep. Ederson, you questioned him on the first goal. I think everybody is really questioning him as well on this third goal, not able to push that down the side, down the goal line like you would want towards the corner flag, puts that back to the top of the six for a poacher's opportunity. Nicholas Jackson, bang, right there to make it 3-3 on the 67th minute. Absolutely fantastic. I think Mudryk.
Yeah, to be fair, I think. Sorry for cutting you off. I just want to stick up for Eddie Ederson here for a second.
Yeah.
It absolutely starts pouring like a minute before this shot. You still, Ederson is class. He's on his day. He still pushes that away. You still got to do that. There's no excuse. But if you rewatch those few minutes, like it's absolutely coming down, and I'm sure that contributed to the little bobbling. I've been given Manuel Akanji a hard time, and he got this goal, so this seems a little out of place for this match. But the first shot outside the box, like you could see Ruben Diaz just flying over to try to stop the shot because he knows it's in a dangerous position. Akanji just waddles up there, doesn't throw his body at all. If that's Vincent Kompany, he's just diving on it and getting hit in the face and blocking it. Jackson never gets that opportunity. Yeah, good finish by Jackson. He's having a hell of a week, but definitely could have defended that better, and Ederson obviously could have done better.
Yeah, 4 goals in the span of 6 days for Jackson against Tottenham away, at home to Manchester City. Hopefully a great confidence boost for him going into the international break, and hopefully he can continue it as Chelsea kind of go through this tough stretch of games after the international break. But then we move on from that, and I can't remember if it was before or after Rodri's goal here, but there's a very interesting moment where the ball is played back towards Ederson, but it's kind of stopping there at the top of the 18. Kyle Walker is kind of shielding off. I believe it's Cole Palmer who's kind of putting pressure there. Ederson clears it straight into Kyle Walker's hand.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of deflects off to the side. No call there. Sterling is kind of waiting there. I think that needs to be a free kick. His arm is extended away from his body. I cannot believe that wasn't called. And I even am more upset at the commentary for not allowing that to even be questioned as a possible call. I think if it's a foot, if it's a foot in as well, we're talking about top of the box handball, like inside the 18 handball, with a possible penalty. I think it has to be called. I think you can't have a clearance like that. You don't know what's going to happen afterwards. You are just taking everything away from Chelsea. It falls nicely to whoever's playing on the left-hand side at the time for City to kind of play out of it and really kind of deflated it. But I was very...
Well, I don't think anything happens from that if it doesn't touch Kyle Walker's hand. I do agree with you, though. That's a handball. The commentator, like, oh, I think it's because of the proximity. What the hell does that mean? Who's coming up with these arbitrary, like, okay, if the ball's 6 inches away from the point of contact?
I hate proximity. Everyone keeps trying to insert that into the conversation, and I just don't like it.
Matter. Sometimes it's 2 inches away, and they still call a penalty. Like,
because
there's no precedent for proximity. It's just some fabricated thing. It seems like, just to try to rationalize why they call handballs, which no one even knows. The refs. The referees are not in sync with this call. Handball's gone very out of hand. No pun intended. But yeah, that should be a handball, but I don't think it would have changed much.
Yeah, it just is an interesting thing. I think the whole point, the rules says that it's about your hand being outside of your silhouette. His arm was clearly outside.
Yeah, it was completely
extended. To say, well, you're in a natural position, and it's too close to not in a natural position. And so they're trying to combine the two ideas. I don't like it. It's a handball for me. It should have been called a free kick at the top of the box at least, whether or not
who takes that free kick.
Anything.
Who takes that free kick? Who scores that from that far to the? On the left foot.
No, I mean, the only opportunity. Oh yeah, I would love to see that. No,
maybe you can send it.
Cole Palmer probably would have taken it. Enzo's not there at that time. Reece James isn't there at the time. I don't know if you put Gallagher on it to kind of get a cross into.
I don't mean to take away from it. It's right outside the box. Yeah. Anything can happen.
Yeah, and you just get that opportunity there. Anyway, we fast forward. Ball kind of falls out there. Sterling, in my opinion, doesn't track back fast enough. There's some kind of unlucky bounces for Chelsea in terms of reaction to where the ball is going as it kind of falls into Rodri's path, who hits it one time from outside the box. Another deflection goal against Chelsea in 2 weeks, one against Tottenham, and now
and we've surely won it at this point. City.
It's Rodri. Rodri doesn't score goals.
Rodri only scores winners.
Exactly. He only scores winners.
Champions League winner. He scored the winner earlier against Sheffield late. Yeah, I thought it was done and dusted for sure this time. There's no way they come back again. This is our third lead of the game. We only usually need one lead, and then we seal it. We're Manchester City. We don't lose these leads. We're professional. We know how to win it. We're Champions League winners. And they go and blow it again at the end. But yeah,
you can have one.
Great effort by Rodri.
But we'll have two. Thank you very much.
Oh wow,
Pep Guardiola
chasing it,
Yeah, Pep Guardiola, 881 games as top flight manager in his career. If his team scores 4 goals, the other team has never scored 4 goals until Sunday. In the 882nd edition of Pep's illustrious career, Cole Palmer, the boy he sold in the summer, steps up ice cold as the rain falling on Stamford Bridge to tuck home that nice penalty. What are you going to do about it? How are you feeling about it? Go, Cole Palmer.
The shrug was
go.
Oh,
I mean, how can you let this guy?
Teddy Bear.
Incredible performance, gets the goal, ties it at 4, 90 plus 5. It's over after that. Share of the points as well. Do you think that's deserved, share of the points?
Oh, for sure. I think that was the most deserved draw I've ever watched. I think if I'm a Chelsea fan, I'm even saying they should have had 3 points. I think Chelsea definitely was. It's funny you don't talk about the penalty for Chelsea. Any talking points there? We only talk about the City one. When Ruben Diaz clearly got a piece of the ball, there's definitely a conversation to be had there. That's definitely a
Bro's just walking around on one leg right now. I don't know what you want. He only has one leg.
It's definitely a penalty. You can break someone's leg and it can be clean in some cases. That was not clean. That was definitely a penalty. Ruben Diaz definitely got part of the ball. Wasn't enough. It's a penalty. Cole Palmer, his celebration at the end was, I just loved it. Even as a City fan, just the shrug, because he's been with City for 15 years. He wanted to play for City, I think, for a larger part of his career than he got the chance to at the top level. Awesome. I mean, he seems like a good kid. And yeah, just the shrug, like I wanted to play for you guys, but I guess I had to do it to you. And you did.
Yeah, he did do it. Raheem Sterling also did it, both grabbing their first goals against their former team, Manchester City. But before that, do you know who was the last player to leave City to a Premier League team and score a goal against them in a competitive match? I'll leave it at that. Let us know your thoughts. We're going to leave that. We're going to let Jacob stew on that one a little bit. Get your answers in the comment section below and let me know what you think. We'll get that going. We'll leave it up here a little bit as we dive into our player rankings overall. So I'll just start quickly for you. Standout player for Manchester City throughout the whole game. Who are you going with?
And this is a hard question because there definitely isn't a clear pick here. I'm gonna have to give it to Phil Foden. I think not because he had an amazing performance, but because he made probably the least amount of mistakes in a game that was just riddled with Manchester City mistakes, uncharacteristically so. I think there's obviously a shout for Haaland. He got a brace. I think he was good, like on the counter too, with some of his passes were very good. Definitely a shout for Haaland. I'm giving it to Foden though. He had a pretty solid game. He just needs to have a little bit more confidence. I think he's not playing to his complete capacity because of a little bit of lack of confidence going against the bigger sides like Chelsea.
Yeah, Pep has kind of praised him over the last couple of years for having a short memory, being able to respawn after not necessarily putting in a great performance and move on to the next one. I think that's helped in his overall development. As Ted Lasso says, be a goldfish. Phil Foden, you're the best of the goldfish, let me tell you. Great performance for him. I agree. I think, especially these 4-4 games with these, former players, Sterling, Cole Palmer, obviously Haaland in his prolific goal scoring form. You get on the score sheet, you get a good assist. It kind of switches what you think about the game. So, for example, Bernardo Silva, I felt he was kind of out of place almost, kind of up that left-hand side. Reece James and Cole Palmer seemed to handle Doku and Bernardo Silva really well, kind of taking them out of the game for what they both like to do. Obviously, Bernardo Silva gets the assist, though, and you think, okay, he got an assist. Maybe that's all you need him to do. But so we'll transition to that. Who was your worst performer there from City, who you think really needs to step it up, especially with you got Liverpool after the international break?
Yeah, again, hard question for the opposite reason. There's a lot of people you could shout out here. I'm going to go with Kyle Walker. He just didn't feel like he knew where he was going most of the time. He had some good tracking back. He used his pace and he had some good tracking back, like I said, to win the ball, but Sterling just made him look like not the Kyle Walker we've seen, the Kyle Walker that took on Vinicius Jr. in the Champions League last summer. And get Kyle Walker off free kick duty. I don't know. Captain, I like having him as captain. I think he's a good character, a good personality to have as your captain. But stop taking free kicks, especially at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Like I don't care who's taking it. It's not Kyle Walker though. Yeah, I'm picking Kyle Walker. A lot of people wanted Ruben Diaz. I don't think he had as bad a game as I think the penalty kick. I mean, rightfully so. Probably put a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, City fans' mouths, because obviously that lost us the 3 points. But I think Diaz had a worse game than you used to seeing, but definitely wasn't the worst player on the pitch for us.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that. Yeah. I don't know. Diaz for me, it seemed like, when you're defending in FIFA and you just keep spamming slide tackle and it's just you see players flying all over the screen. That was Diaz for some parts of this game. It seemed like he's always slide tackling. Yeah. The goal, Conor Gallagher doing it. Like he hits it from outside the box and you got Diaz at the top of the penalty spot there, like 6 yards away, just slide tackling, trying to get in front of it.
Yeah.
It's nowhere close to it. He obviously slides gets down, can't leave your feet there against Broja. His first touch after coming in as a sub, after coming off of injury in the rain, just stay in front of him. No need to go.
Yeah, how cool is that by him?
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Nkuku hopefully will come back as well, which he's going to add more places, more competition for that place instead of just.
So Cole Palmer won man of the match for Chelsea. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, a great performance. I mean, as of late, he's just always been, like I said, what you want from that winger, from that side. You want him to attack players. He had an amazing winding run through City players, kind of stumbling by the time that he gets to go get that shot off. Right. You'd like to see him do better, even with, kind of stumbling there. You'd like to see him do better. Obviously, was very, pressed very well, was able to win the ball off a couple of times, which was fantastic. Definitely great performance. I think in combination with Reece James down that right-hand side, they completely shut down that right-hand side in that first half, especially when Reece James was really, played the whole half. His tracking back, I think, isn't talked about enough. Cole Palmer, obviously he's young, he has the energy and all that kind of stuff. But when you're playing with a back four against City, who can bring Bernardo Silva over, who likes to bring one of the center backs into the midfield, it's really easy to get overloaded. We saw that Cucurella on the left-hand side a couple times had to be 2-on-1 a lot of the time because you didn't have either Enzo or Sterling dropping and really helping him out there as much as he needed it. And on the right-hand side, Cole Palmer was consistently dropping back to help out Reece James and create, those 2-on-2s instead of leaving a 2-on-1. Reece James obviously held his own against Daku. Throw your keys on the table, throw your wallet on the table, put Daku on the little hook when he gets home out of his pocket. Absolutely useless in that game. And so, he does it when he's healthy. He's in my opinion, the best right back in the world. There's no one better. He makes runs as well, Reece James does. So he only played 60 minutes, and it's because of a fitness issue. But for those 64 minutes, he was the best player for Chelsea. I think he caused all of the issues. He forced it up on the right-hand side. He allowed Cole Palmer to do what he wanted offensively because he would be able to cover. And so that was fantastic. Sterling, he got some confidence throughout this game. You watch him a little bit. He gets that nice little nutmeg on Daku, who somehow ended up on the left-hand side for a little bit there. I can't remember how, but gets a little nutmeg on Daku. He tries it again outside our own box like 10 minutes later, which I don't appreciate at all. Doesn't come off. That goes into a nice attack for City. I don't know if that was connected to Phil Foden's 33rd-minute chance or not, but definitely some good opportunity came from that for City. So, but then he gets one on Kyle Walker. He tries another one, I think, at the end of the game. I mean, he was just gaining confidence, taking players on, which you like to see. I'm okay with him losing the ball in the final third. By trying that, I am perfectly happy with that. I think for me, Raheem Sterling had a good game overall, especially when you look at the offensive side of things. It's the defensive side of things that kind of let me down a little bit, so I do have to knock him a little bit for that. So if I had to give a man of the match, I guess I would be leaning a little bit more Cole Palmer's way, Reece James's way over Sterling. But I think definitely the three of them had a great game. Defensively, Thiago Silva gets the goal, but that poor communication with Enzo, who I think Enzo was the worst player for Chelsea on the day, got subbed off, rightfully so. I think what we needed him to be, whether that's his great range of passing or his ability to kind of win the ball in transition, he just wasn't giving that to us as much as we needed it. And obviously he played a role in a couple of those chances for City, not tracking back enough, not following runners enough. I mean, for that Haaland's goal right after halftime, it actually comes from an attacking phase for Chelsea. Both Enzo and Sterling are there at the top of the 18 and close to the halfway line. And it is it Phil Foden who runs the whole length of the right-hand side to join the attack, and not either of them follows him all the way. Cucurella gets overloaded 2-on-1, the ball gets played, and then slid across to Haaland for the tap-in. So it's just the tracking back issue. It's the communication issues. We've seen it many times this year with poor communication on marking and following people.
Yeah.
Oh, it was Alvarez. That's what it is. Exactly. Alvarez got on the end of that. Alvarez started on his own 18 next to Sterling, and Enzo was about 10 yards closer to the Chelsea goal during that phase. And Alvarez beat out both of them back to join that attack with Phil Foden, gets the ball played to him. And then Enzo has the audacity to just point at Cucurella, like, you're supposed to go to Alvarez. Alvarez is on a full trot. Cucurella is standstill trying to hold up Phil Foden. You expect him to go from pure stop, turning and run with Alvarez in time to stop a one-time cross. No chance whatsoever. He should have worked to get back and help defend.
He had to guard two people at the same time. He was just not.
Yeah, you're a double pivot. You need to do it. Caicedo for me as well. He bites on Haaland during that transition. We used to see Rudiger do it all the time for Chelsea with Thomas Tuchel in a back five. He was able to be more aggressive, but when Rudiger did it, he either got the ball or the guy was on the ground. And if Caicedo would have done either of those, Haaland wouldn't have scored.
De Bruyne's nose still hurts, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it's the only trophy Kai Havertz has on his shelf, thanks to that one as well. So, but it is what it is. I love Caicedo to have played a little bit better as well, but I have to give Enzo the worst performance. I need that double pivot to be more solid if we're going to move forward. And City and Chelsea both really have good defensive records this year. Only 12 goals, 4 in one game, but 12 so far in 12 games. For City has been a great start. Chelsea only 16 goals against, 4 obviously against Manchester.
We ruined each other's defensive record.
Yeah, well, good thing too, because you're getting me a little worried there about coming for Chelsea's Premier League record of only 15 goals against. Good, we put a little dent in that chase for you after you take all the other Chelsea records. But anyway, we've had a little bit of time here to talk about, to think about this one here. Raheem Sterling and Cole Palmer both scored for the first time versus their former club, Manchester City, on Sunday. Who was the last former player to do so for a Premier League team? It happened in 2021 to kick off the season in the Community Shield.
Is it Jesus?
It is Iheanacho for Leicester in the 1-0 win.
Community Shield. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely fantastic.
Gosh, great question.
Oh, no worries. We got one more here to close it out, just to kind of discuss a little bit. Haaland obviously getting 2 goals. He also scored in the Champions League as well in midweek to put him into the top 20 all-time in the Champions League already at his young age. So he's been, in the Premier League for 50 games now. He has possibility of playing 23 teams, 20 from last season, the 3 promoted teams from this season. He has scored. After scoring against Chelsea, he got his 20th team off the list, which was Chelsea. But there are 3 teams that he has not scored against so far. Can you name any of those 3? Let us know your thoughts there in the comment section below, what your thoughts are for Erling Haaland. But that kind of transitioned us into our last topic for today, which is, where do City go from here? You sit top of the Premier League as Tottenham lost back-to-back weeks, losing to Wolves. Arsenal obviously had that struggle of form there for a couple games in the middle, the controversy against Newcastle and so on. You sit on 28 points. You are top of the table once again, 32 goals for, 12 goals against. Obviously, you got the international break. You haven't had Kevin De Bruyne up to this point. Rodri missed a good handful of games and is now back. How are you feeling as you go into kind of we're at the 1/3 mark of the season?
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, I can't, as a City fan, I can't complain. We're not usually top of the table at this point. At this point, last year, Arsenal was well on top of the table, and people were already writing off the league for them. It's obviously happy where we stand. Absolutely massive game coming off the international break against Liverpool. After this shaky performance, I'm even more nervous for that one. However, it's at the Etihad. I think the boys will get it done, and I'm still feeling confident. I think this was, not to be like condescending or anything, but this was a more important game for Chelsea than it was significant for City's season.
Yeah, I mean, I think, right now we'll see if they can do it. You don't have Gundogan anymore to go on a 13-game win streak to get you those 13 wins. You usually get end of December into February to kind of set the pace in the league. So we'll see. Maybe this year you guys are going to be more of a consistent team where, you're going to drop a couple points here, you're going to drop a couple points there, but you're going to be overall more consistent. And you made it through the first part of the season that you normally don't make it through on top of the Premier League table. Like you mentioned last year, Arsenal at top of the table. 2 years ago, it was Chelsea and West Ham at this point who were close to the top of the table, if I'm not mistaken. And so City then, went on their run and kind of, set the pace thereafter. Haaland obviously hasn't stopped scoring. He will not stop scoring. I think not even having Kevin De Bruyne at this point and being top of the table is even better. We know Arsenal has, maybe some confidence issues in terms of getting over the line when they get there as a young team. Tottenham obviously are injury obliterated, and we'll see how long Liverpool can put this together. I love that this is the first game outside of the international break, City and Liverpool at the Etihad, because I think, here on the webcast, our prediction was that Liverpool would finish second in the Premier League this year. They have gotten their form with Nunez really picking it up. He doesn't start as regularly as I thought he would at this point, but he is definitely, Szoboszlai has been absolutely fantastic. Him and James Maddison, for me, really those signings that you kind of under the radar in the summer that have just, exploded onto the scene and being the week in, week out drivers of their teams. Sad to see James Maddison will be out until the new year, but so very excited about that. I agree. I think City, the last week or so has kind of convinced me that City are kind of, we've all kind of thought this, but really in a class of their own in terms of what they want to do. If they can implement their system, Kevin De Bruyne comes back, you can ease him in. I think City are just fine. It's just going to be a real battle there for those extra 3 or 4 places for the Champions League, that new format starting next year. Anyway, we gave some thought here for Haaland has scored against 20 out of 23 possible Premier League teams that he has faced over the last year and change. Do you have any guess on who the remaining?
I'm going to guess one. I don't want to overdo it here and embarrass myself, but I don't think he's scored against Tottenham yet.
Well, he has scored against Tottenham. That is not one of them. It is another Big Six team, though, that he hasn't scored at, and a team that you may play in the near future.
Oh, yeah. I could have sworn he scored against Liverpool.
No, he has yet to score against Liverpool.
Off the international break. Who's the other?
Brentford and Luton Town, which doesn't really count because you haven't played Luton Town yet. But so Brentford and Liverpool, the 2 teams from last year that escaped 2 games against Erling Haaland without being scored on. Let's see if they can go another season. Chelsea 0-1. The 3rd team or the 20th team to fall to Erling Haaland. From a Chelsea perspective now, let's switch some things. Like you said, definitely Chelsea needed this a little bit more. It gets us into the top half of the table. But some good performances for Chelsea against some good teams. Undefeated against Arsenal, Liverpool, Tottenham, and Manchester City after 12 games, with the performances that we had against Brentford and Fulham even, and, not the best of performances. I don't think we would have ever dreamed that we could, put in 8 goals against Tottenham and City, conditions. Obviously Tottenham had 9 men, but still putting 8 goals in the span of 6 days and getting 4 points. Yeah, and getting 4 points against them. Absolutely fantastic. Do you think this is a catalyst and a turning point for Chelsea to kind of move on and start 1, fighting up the table?
Not an overreaction, 1,000%. And I just want to, almost just for you, I want to go back and rewatch some of these comments on what a disheveled, horrible situation Chelsea's in. Like, not counting the fact that they got a new manager, they basically have a completely new team, and it's been 6 games into the season, and everyone's saying that Chelsea's getting relegated. I'm happy for Chelsea that they're figuring it out, and I think Caicedo's going to be huge for them. Just they hold the ball very, very well. Their midfield is really, really strong. I think Enzo had a better game than you were saying. I think he probably deserved the substitution, but his ability is insane. Like, what he can do with the ball is amazing. And Chelsea just has, money buys talent, and Chelsea has spent a lot of that, and they've got a lot of talent, and I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, maybe, Enzo has kind of a unfair expectation coming into a new team versus some of these other players like Caicedo or Palmer or, so on, Lavia, who hasn't even played yet due to injury, and all those players because, he's coming off of a World Cup win, obviously good performances, Benfica, the Champions League. And he comes in, we know his range of pass. We've seen glimpses of it. We've seen his ability to break up play, start that transition, play any type of pass that you really would want. And so maybe we are expecting a little bit more of him, especially in a team that's still kind of figuring themselves out. How many times did Sterling go down? I like the fluidity of an attack, but it's a little too much sometimes when you got Sterling on the left and Cole Palmer on the right, and Cole Palmer in the middle and Sterling on the right, and it's a lot of switching for a team that's just getting used to each other to really be able to cohesively move through the transitions of the phases of play, and you're at the base of the midfield. That's going to affect you the absolute most. You think you have help, you don't think you have help, you need the help, you don't need the help. It's a lot more difficult, but I think he's going to grow. That partnership with Caicedo, they're both so young, they're going to grow together, and it's super exciting. It hurts because all this rebuild happened when we were off the back of winning the Club World Cup. I know it's not the biggest deal, but making the FA Cup final, making the League Cup final, obviously probably should have won at least one of those against Liverpool. 2 0-0 draws, penalties, gave that to Liverpool. But Thomas Tuchel doing his thing, playing well in the league, finishing in the top 4, and we took all of that and kind of threw it to the side to rebuild with the new ownership, and it's tough to swallow. Hopefully we're getting through those growing pains quickly, and we can start making our way. 10 points off of top 4, though, is kind of a ways to climb, especially with the strength of schedule coming up. But super exciting times for Chelsea, so we'll see where it goes, but it is the international break, so we do have to wait about 8-9 more days here before the action returns to the Premier League. But come back and join us here at the webcast as we got our NFL picks every week. We'll be doing them for Thanksgiving. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and we will see you next time here at the webcast.